Danny Ainge doing it again. 13 unprotected picks through 2029. But I do love what the Utah Jazz are doing here. You put Sexton and Markkanen with Bogdanovich, Clarkson, Mike Conley. That's a better five than the Lakers got right now.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about the Jazz later, but I'm assuming that by the time we're actually playing real basketball, Mike Conley, Bogdanovich, and Clarkson may all not be part of the Jazz because that's not part of the plan. This is called the Ainge. This should just be called the Ainge now. Whatever package comes back with unprotected picks. He did it to the Nets. He's been doing it forever. I think this is now called the Ainge when you get more than 3 unprotected first rounders, right? Can we just change the terminology here? But from the Cavs point of view, I loved it. I felt like the Knicks, who we'll talk about later, were kind of sitting in that cat seat position where they were like, no one else is throwing an offer out. If you don't like ours, then fuck you. And they were kind of sitting in this position. And, whatever. They had some kind of deadline and they marked the RJ Barrett extension and that toppled it. And I think Cleveland saw this window, had the picks, and we're like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, this is the time to go for it. And from their end, I think you got to do it. Like, when's the last time you've seen some big, free agent want to come to Cleveland without LeBron James? They haven't won a playoff series without LeBron James since 1992. And they got what could be, some fairly generational piece. And it's the time to go all in. You know me, I'm not the biggest Donovan Mitchell guy. You've heard me say on this podcast a bunch of times, Donovan Mitchell is good, but he's not good enough. He's not a number one alpha dog. I never thought he was. And in the context of Utah, he had to be. He was the scorer. He was the guy, the engine. When I look at this team with what they've already done, and as you said, Mobley, potentially like stepping into a more dominant role, he gets to be a little more of a piece here rather than the guy. And that's important. And I think that's the situation Donovan Mitchell should be in. Now they have this kind of big four mixed in with like a Coro, Karis LeVert, Kevin Love, some interesting side pieces. And, to me, that puts them right in the mix of, I'd say, the second tier of Eastern Conference teams. Until I see it on the floor, I'm not willing to put him into this, Milwaukee, Boston, sort of Philly tier. Brooklyn's the same as Cleveland right now. Until I see like Ben Simmons hold a basketball and do something with it, I'm not willing to put them among that group. I can't. Yeah. They got swept in the playoffs last year. I can't. So I think, I'm not putting them over the top yet because they have sort of an obvious lack of depth and a clear lack of a rotational wing. Like, I don't know who, you can spread Mobley and Jared Allen out a lot for bigs. They're mobile guys that you can't really isolate and get into trouble. But also, you just added 2 6'1" guards who have defensive deficiencies and sort of this huge gap in like a wing player. So I do think that they're a solid wing player away from doing anything real. And, after, let's say, one injury on this team, you're getting a lot of Lamar Stevens or a lot of Dean Wade, like the shelf drops off on the Cavs here about like 8 or 9 on the roster. So, but I think, listen, Mobley is 21, Garland's 23, Allen's 24, Mitchell's 26. They're all locked up for the next 2 years. It's a lot of fun. And I think it's a move they had to do. Why the fuck not? You let it play out for 2 seasons. You might break through. And if not, you still kind of have your young core, and then you move on from Mitchell. So I think for Cleveland, it was smart. And in this day and age, all those picks are just the equity needed to make this kind of deal done. And they had to close the deal.